Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to day 2 of BuzzBook Expo. We have a great lineup for you for today. We're very excited. I'm not going to keep you too long. Just wanted to, welcome you all. Thank you all again for coming. We're going to kick things off right away with Michelle from Erie River, and I'll bring her right in. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Busy, but excited.
That's what we like to hear. Well, I won't keep you. I'm just going to turn things over to you. And if you need us, we'll be out there. Awesome. We'll be out there listening. So take it away.
All right, excellent. So my name's Michelle River, and I am the owner of Erie River Publishing. We are a small publishing house based out of Ontario, Canada, and we publish international authors as well as Canadian authors. We have anthologies, we do novels, novellas. It's just an exciting, this is year 4 for us. We started with the first, it was more of a self-publish group project called Storming Area 51. And that actually started mid-September is when we released it. So we're just coming at 4 years. We started taking anthology submissions probably December, January. So we're coming up to 4 years of being open to the public, which is amazing because we put on so many different anthologies and novels and everything else like that. If anyone does have any questions, feel free to ask them. Like, I'm a pretty open book. But let's talk about 2024, or even from now on. We've got some awesome things coming out in the next couple of months. We've put on an quarterly anthology. And this is what we're going to be continuing to do is we're doing a yearly theme, and we do something every quarter. And so we're starting to put out our first quarter anthology from 2023. We did a year of tarot. So our first edition for that is going to be coming out pretty much within the next month. We're hoping to have it out by October. I don't have an exact date because my life has been crazy, but we are hoping to get that done. We've got covers in the works. I'm just going to start announcing all of that soon. So we're going to have that coming out. So we have, trying to remember what the first one was. It was Chalice. So we have Chalice, then Pentacles, Swords, and then Wands. So all of those are going to be coming out individually. And then we're going to have like this Omni book that is also going to have all of those stories in it. We also have another Omni book coming out. So last year's quarterly anthology was the elemental cycle. So we did earth, air, fire, water. So all of those individual books have been released already. So now we're going to put those together, and we're putting them out as one giant book. So that will be coming out by December, and it's going to have a brand new cover, all that other fun stuff. So that's our anthologies. We do have something in the works. It is a Kickstarter anthologies. We're doing a Kickstarter anthology. Patrons of Erie River already know what the theme is. It is going to be pro-paid. So we're going to be doing 5 cents a word. And we have half of them already selected as invite only. So we're not doing an invite only. It's going to be half invite, and then we should be opening 10 spots to everyone else. And I'm not releasing the theme yet. That is our patron exclusive for at least another month, and then we're going to be announcing what it is. But we're really excited about that, so stay tuned for that. That is something that's happening. So how many pages in that giant book? Okay, so each each series, each quarter was about 60,000 words. So that's 240,000 words. Oh my gosh, this is going to be too big. It's going to be too big. It's going to be probably trying to think like how big I'm going to make it. I'm going to probably do a 6x9. So it could be close to 600 pages. It's all really going to depend on my formatting. Like how margins, how thin, how big, if I'm putting graphics in there. So yeah, it's going to be a pretty big book because it's four of our like 200-page books put together. But again, I'm going to do it, I think, a 6x9 or a 5.5 by 8.5. So it won't be, because I have to keep it under like 769 or else Amazon's like, sorry. But yeah, how many employees do we have? Good questions. We don't have any specific employees, but I do have contract workers. So I have right now 2 editors that I work with fairly closely. The first one is David Jack Fletcher. He is amazing. He does majority of our horror calls. And then our new fantasy editor that we had working on our Empire of Ruin series for David Green, and hopefully some of our other fantasy, is going to be Shauna. I apologize if I say this wrong. Shauna Kinsella. They're a fantastic editor, and they do mainly our fantasy, or will be doing our fantasy or urban fantasy coming up. For other employees, I occasionally hire artists to do covers, but I do a lot of the art for the covers. I do all of the social media, the web designing. If you see TikTok, you see my face a lot, and that's because I do that. And book boxes, all that other fun stuff. I do have some really amazing author friends and helpers and people that help curate stuff with me. So at those, when we have someone that's taking over a curator position, like Tim Mendes is doing our quarterly anthology, he becomes a partner on that and he becomes a curator. Same with Holly Cornetto. She's done some curated projects with us as well. So no specific employees, but people that work partner as projects, and editors that I pay, and artists. But I do all of the interior formatting for the books too. Okay, so that's our quarterly anthologies. And again, Kickstarter's coming next year. If you're part of our patron, you get to see what the theme is early, and this is a huge one. It's going to be so much fun. I'm so excited about it. But for novels coming out, we have in March, we have Chasing the Dragon by Mark Towsey from Australia. Very excited to see this one come out. This one is almost an anti-hero, grim, dark, really cool kind of concept that I think everyone is going to love. It's so quirky and weird. And this protagonist is just someone that you can both relate to and also have no idea what is going on in their mind. So it's a really fun one. I'm excited about that. That's going to be coming up in March. Then we also have some dark fantasy coming up. We have book 3 in the Night Order series. So right now, that's by Rachel Bowker. So we have right now, we have Shade of Night and Untamed Night. That's book 1 and book 2. And book 3 should be out later next year. We're thinking November time. Hold on a second. Eloise, what did I say? I'm doing a live, girly. Please go upstairs. Oh, seriously. Okay. So Rachel Bowker, we're going to be having book 3 coming out, and that's going to be later next year. By Holly Cornetto, Trailer Park Witches, book 2 should be coming out. Trailer Park Witches is a series. Put your head down. Trailer Park Witches will be coming out. Trailer Park Witches book 2 will be coming out next year. We don't have a definitive date, but that is 2022. And then I'm actually going to be releasing, I know, Eloise is being a stinker. I was like, please stay upstairs with your brother. I'm single mumming it today. No one, it's just me. And then I'm actually working on a manuscript myself called Rotten House. It is psychological horror story about a woman that goes back home after her mother passes away and inherits her hoarder house. And it's her over a week's time trying to clear it out, but also kind of breaking down because something is going on in the house, and maybe it wasn't just her mother's mental illness that caused it. So that's going to be coming out. It's called Rotten House, and that should be out hopefully for October next year. So do you find that the writing styles in the States and internationally differ, specifically theme and writing styles? I am Canadian, so I read lots of everything. To me is international unless you're Canadian. But I'm going to say the biggest difference is the locale that people choose. A lot of times, if it's an American writer, they're writing to their country and location. I do find dialect word choices will differ greatly between Americans and people from the UK, which is really interesting because there's certain things. Sometimes I get something from the UK and I just have no idea what they mean. So I have to like message my friends and be like, yo, what does this mean? Am I reading this content in context? So it's just word choices. I think no matter what, doesn't matter where the writer is from, there's always a huge difference in writing styles because everyone writes completely differently. So I don't know if I would say that like European writers write more purple prose versus Americans, because I don't know if I could say that I've read a lot, and everyone's different. Why Kickstarter? Funding. That's the big thing. We have to remember with publishers, a lot of it's coming out of our pocket. We are now completely, which is amazing, able to fund Erie River with Erie River money, which is crazy. We're finally making a profit. So for people that don't understand that, all of the hundreds and thousands of hours that I have put into Erie River over the last 4 years have been completely unpaid. I do this for the love of books, the love of words. I want to support indie authors. I think that horror and dark fantasy and dark genres need lifting, or like, I just love it. I support it. To be able to pay people pro rates, I need to pre-sell books. I need people to commit to being like, yes, I am going to buy this book. I'm going to pay this much money for it. And I'm going to give you profit so that you can pay these people. So that's why a lot of small indie presses are stuck at royalties, stuck at 1 cent a word, like me for so long, is because there's no way of getting it done without a huge marketing fund. The only way to get a huge marketing fund is like money. So Kickstarter for me, I'm hoping will be able to really take us to that next level. We've got people really interested in writing for this one. And even though we have 500-600 people that submit every time we have a big, huge call, that doesn't mean we're selling like thousands of copies of books, which is really what you need to be able to pay people pro rates. So yeah, that's why.
I have a quick question, if I can just stick one in here. One of the things I find fascinating about Erie River is that you have gone from doing semi-pro to pro rates, and you're doing like all the right things. Is basically what I'm getting at. And you're doing interesting marketing things, and one of the things that we talk about here during the expo is, hello, little person.
Hey, Eloise.
One of the things that we talk about is like different ways that publishers are finding that with the evolving publishing landscape, how they are looking at new ways of marketing, new ways of growing their business. I know you talked a little bit about it, but could you talk about like the book boxes? Could you
Oh
talk
yeah.
about like just different things that you're doing that might be outside the box, so to speak, ways of building your business?
Yeah. So I am from Canada, and book boxes, for me, I love book boxes, but they're so expensive. So I actually ended up creating a Canadian book box company that focuses on horror and dark romance and dark fantasy. And it ships Canadian and to the US. You can look at it at shadowbookbox.com or bookboxcanada.com. And we focus on indie authors, and that's Eloise. So yeah, different marketing things that we're doing is I'm working on my shop on the Erie website, because the idea is that I was going to be doing some cross promotion so I can do Erie book specific boxes. So we can do Canada and US. I could potentially go international, where it would have author signed copies or book plates. You'd have swag, and then you'd also have some fun little things. Like we have Cursed Like You. They are Cursed Like You, apologize, by Holly Cornetto and S.O. Green. We've got a book box for that right now, where it has, this one's all about curses and things like that. So I've got Sage from Canadian Indigenous Company for like curses. We've contacted I'm just going to have to let her sit there. Contacted a candle making company regionally that does witchy curse candles. So I've got an anti-curse candle. We're doing a mug, some stickers. So just those fun little things that play off the book itself. And you can order that and have that delivered. So I just think it's cool if you can make something fun and unique, because we all love author swag. So why not like step it up? So that's what I'm trying to do. And we're going to see that also with the Kickstarter as well, because I have access to make hats and other different things and buy candy and stuff like that. Like, let's do it. So other things like Kickstarters, that's a good way to do it. I also sell directly from our I'm going to be selling directly from the website as well. Another thing that I do is I do a lot of book fairs and markets. There is not a lot of book fairs in my area, so I started putting them together. So I now host book fairs and markets. I host about 4 of them a year, regionally and all around. I also try to get on different panels at like horror festivals. So like Frightmare in the Falls in Niagara, I'm setting up panels. I'm actually responsible for setting up some panels there. We're doing 3 different horror panels where we're going to be talking about books specifically. And then, but also just being a presence there. So making sure you have a booth, making sure you have giveaways and swag and that kind of stuff is something that we're really trying to, we want to be seen. We want people to recognize our name. So that's what we're trying to do.
I'm so wowed by it. I mean, four different shows a year, running your own press, getting anthologies out, getting novels out. It's really amazing. Like, it's really and you know what? We need people like that in the genre to promote things and to get it going. And we have another question before we let you go from Anne.
Okay, so we don't have dark romance with Erie River yet, but another thing I didn't mention, Erie River is opening up an imprint for dark romance in 2024 called Edging Inc.
Oh, yay! See, you heard it here first, people.
Yeah, so we're opening up Edging Inc. It's just, I'm getting the name was just decided. I'm getting logos printed and stuff like that. But yeah, dark romance and erotica is near and dear to my heart. So I definitely, I'm definitely going to get into that. But for the book box, yeah, we do have dark romances on there.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, Michelle, for being part of the expo. This is really great. I love when publishers are enthusiastic and excited about what they're doing and trying new things. And it's really awesome. It's great to have you.
Oh,
And
thank you.
good luck with everything. And thanks again.
Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay, folks. Next, we have Thunderstorm Books coming up after a quick break. We're going to have some ads, and then we will be right back. Hi, everyone. We're back, and we have Paul Goblers from Thunderstorm Books. We're very excited. I'm going to bring Paul in.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. It's good to see you.
Yeah, thank you. Good to see you.
I won't keep you. I'm going to pop out and give you the floor.
Okay, sounds good. Welcome, everybody. I'm Paul Goblish, Thunderstorm Books. If you've caught previous year's expos, I've been, this is year number 4 I'm on the expo, and I thank everybody for that. I'm going to do a little bit something different this year. I'm going to talk more about stuff coming out in 2024 more than in the rest of this year. So in previous years, I kind of was talking about stuff that was kind of immediate. And I'm going to just hit a couple highlights because on average, I do about 40 books a year. So we'll hit those highlights. A couple announcements as far as things coming out this year. We have, oh, and by the way, any questions as I'm going, just pop them in, because my plan is to kind of do an announcement, answer questions. I'll have some trivia stuff come up where if kind of the first person to type in the answer will win some sort of book from me. So just keep the questions rolling, and we'll go. I'll answer them as I go in. So first off, these just came in. Island of the Dead, Brian Keene. I will start shipping these this upcoming week. They are sold out, but booksellers might still have some. So that's coming soon. If you ordered Burn the Plans, and we had this combo package with Earthling Publications. I know Earthling is starting to send out Midas. Burn the Plans is still probably going to be around Halloween. So still about a month off on those ones, and the chapbook will come out with Burn the Plans, but you may get those shipped separately. All I'm waiting for those are the signature sheets. Then we have the Drive-In Antho that's been kind of a book in progress for a long time. Right here, this is gold right here. This is gold. Those are the signature sheets for that project. You're probably wondering why they're not at the binder. And the answer is, when I ordered the end sheets, there was an inventory issue, and they had to back order some of the sheets to get my full order in. So it put me behind another like 4 to 6 weeks, which I was a little bit disappointed, but I kind of got over it. So those end sheets back orders should be in by the end of this month and in the next couple of weeks. Then the signature sheets will go off once those end sheets are en route, and then it's off to the races, and I'm hoping maybe Christmas. So that'll kind of wrap up 2023. I do have other books coming out this year in 2023 as well. They haven't been publicly announced yet. So just keep your eye on thunderstormbooks.com, and we can, you'll see those pop up in October and November. Not quite sure what's going to be happening in December this year. I might be taking a little bit of a break, so we'll see. So announcement kind of number 1. And now I'm going to start talking a little bit about 2024 again. Announcement number 1 is Brian Keene's The Labyrinth, Volume 3. I'm sure you've seen some of that stuff online. Already started with the artist to get sketches going, that sort of thing. So hopefully, maybe we can squeeze it in this year, but it just depends on how fast the artist gets their stuff done. But some of that stuff has already started in pre-production, so that will probably be the next kind of big announcement I do, which is good. Another announcement, I'm going to be working with Haley Piper again in 2024. So that's it. That's huge. I'm very excited about that book. And then let's see, another one, Edward Lee. I'm going to be working with Edward Lee, and that's kind of a dream come true a little bit. I was a huge Necro Publications fan. I was a huge Dave Barnett fan. So it's kind of an honor to be able to do. We actually got 2 books in the pipeline to do some books with Mr. Edward Lee. For those of you, I mean, he's kind of like the king of extreme horror. So that'll be an exciting event, and you'll probably see that announcement again, probably early 2024. Another thing going on is if you caught on last year's Book Expo, I had Philip Fracassi on as like a guest speaker, guest author, and we were talking about Beneath the Pale Sky and Behold the Void. Those 2 limited editions came out last year. Some of you probably bought the lettered edition of Beneath the Pale Sky. That is still at the binder, so they take extra long to do those type of books, but hopefully those won't be held up too much longer. But if you caught last year's Expo, we kind of threw out there that he has a 3rd collection coming out called No One Is Safe, and that's now in the pipeline as well. But that won't be until like mid 2024. So that one's a little bit of ways off, but it's kind of some exciting news, and I kind of wanted to tack it on since it was, it was brought up during last year's Expo. Some other news. Well, let's do trivia question number 1. If I don't have any questions right now, we'll do trivia question number 1, and then we'll go into some more news. So I'm not just popping you with news, right? So trivia number 1. How about first one to type it in wins a book? What was the first Thunderstorm book I published of Mary San Giovanni's? So if you know the answer, type it in. First one to type it in will win a book. So Matt's kind of handling that behind the scenes. I don't see the all the chat. I only see myself talking. So I'm sure they'll be popping up questions and stuff like that. So if you know the answer to that, close, but no cigar. Although I did publish that book, by the way. But at the time it was a reprint. So is there any questions out there? Anybody have any questions for kind of what's going on, how the small press is, how 2024 is? Another thing I wanted to mention is 2024 for me, from a personal level, is going to be very, very important. Yep, bingo, Thrall. It's going to be very important for me. I've kind of come at kind of a crossroads. This has been kind of brewing for a while, and my youngest daughter has left for college, and so things are changing. I'm now an empty nester, but I'm going to really try to focus on making 2024 a really good year. And it's not to say that previous years were bad, but it's just kind of a renewed energy, a renewed focus. I kind of want to see what can happen. So I'm hoping a whole bunch of big announcements or good announcements or fun announcements will be made throughout the year. So
I just wanted to pop in. First of all, I am super excited about everything you've got going on for 23 and 24. For Aaron, if you could send us an email to buzzbookexpo@gmail.com with your mailing address, we can get it to Paul so that we can get you the book that you've won. So just so for all the giveaways, just make sure that you put in, and in the subject line, put the book title that you guessed that you won. Okay. So for Aaron, the subject line would be Thrall, and then we just need your full name and address in the email, and that's at buzzbookexpo@gmail.com. I just wanted to pop in. We do have a question for you, Paul, so I'm going to pop.
Okay. Sounds good. How am I doing? How am I doing? I'm doing all right. I'm doing very well. It's been a challenging year. Most of it more on a personal level than a press level, but it's been a good year though. So I'm excited. I'm really excited for next year. Like I said, my daughter's heading off to college. That should open up more opportunities for me to travel. Typically, I only go to a convention maybe every 2 to 3 years. Maybe I can go to, multiple conventions in a year, maybe 1 or 2 a year. So things like that, where I'm more social, more available for conventions, for things like this. One of the things I want to mention, if other publishers are happening to be watching this type of thing, this expo isn't just good for announcements and those type of things, those outward, this is what my press is about, this is what I'm doing. It's also a good thing for a publisher just internally. It gets your mind thinking about, the structure of the rest of the year, the structure of next year. So it's an important exercise to go through, even if you're not on an expo, or if you're, if you're not doing it publicly, to go through those steps of making sure there's a lot of structure with what you have planned on releasing and what your goals are and how to achieve those goals. Are you in line to have that happen? I used to do it a lot when I first started out, and then you kind of get complacent, and then it's like, oh, okay, I'm just making books, and then it's important to step back and just kind of look at yourself, look at how your press is doing, and make sure you're going in the direction you want to take it. I don't know if there's a right or wrong direction, but the direction you want to take it. So I did that this year a little bit more structured than I have in previous years. And I thought it was a good exercise. And some of the things I'm going to announce later today, it's like, hey, these are some important things to go through, just so you don't let things. You'll hear about it later. What is it about stories that keep you motivated? That's a good question. I think for reading stories, what keeps me motivated is connection to characters. So if I feel connected to characters when reading stories, it makes me want to keep reading the book or read other books by that same author, that sort of thing. So connections to characters is a huge thing. Just reading in general, what keeps me motivated is I really, really want Thunderstorm to be a good press for the authors and for the book collectors. So that's just a thing I've always held high on my list, is make sure that I'm treating everybody with respect, putting out a quality product as much as possible, that sort of thing. So that's kind of the motivation. How many different versions of books do you try to offer? Black Foliage Letter. Efren, that's another good question. It kind of varies from year to year, but that is a perfect question for a segue, because Black Voltage is kind of my mainstay. And you can see them in the background. They're kind of my oversized standalone type books, where it's pretty much my main line of books, put it that way. They're probably my personal favorites, just from like what I like to put together. But I do put together different types of lines. Now, those Black Voltage books are mostly, there's a few exceptions, but most of them are the 80,000 words and above full-size novel or full-size manuscript type things. So there's some other things I'm putting together, and over time, sometimes I start them, sometimes I stop them. There's a couple things going on that I want to mention now, because that's a perfect question, is one of the other announcements I was going to talk about is the splatter westerns that I did, like the first 13 books with Death's Head Press. We're in the works with continuing those in hardback. I'm also in the works with coming out with something exclusively for Cemetery Dance Publications. Now, this is one of the things that's kind of on me. I haven't been, I've been kind of like backburnering that project, but I met Kevin Lucia at AuthorCon, and we kind of hit it off. And I'm really excited to be doing a couple books with them, and hopefully it's something that catches on. So that will be like you pointed out, a kind of a different line of books, because it's going to be a different concept altogether. So that that's in the works. So I don't know an exact time for the book one of that, but it is something that's now, it's on the schedule. And as we get closer to publication, I'll have more definite dates. And the third thing I wanted to mention, as far as new books go, is a book line that I'm calling Neon Recluse, which is sort of an 80s type throwback name, I guess. It's going to have like neon colors on it. It's supposed to have some 80s feel to these titles. So here's the signature sheets. Just got these yesterday for Summer Cannon. She's in it. She's probably wondering why it took forever to get her book going. And I got a couple other authors on that too. Which, question number 2, because I only got a few more minutes. Question number 2 is, what was the title of the first Summer Cannon Thunderstorm book I did? So, but yeah, Neon Recluse. It's going to be like a paperback / hardcover combo. So I'm going to try that out, see how they go, see if customers like that sort of thing. Typically, they're going to be more mid-range in terms of word count. So we're talking like, 40, 50 to maybe 70-ish, 60, 70-ish, kind of that mid-range. It's still technically a novel, or there can be collections and that sort of thing too. But so that mid-range of word count, hopefully they catch on. I hope so. I know I've been working on them a long time, but we've made some breakthroughs. There's a couple things that just didn't feel right for me, and I couldn't figure out what it was, and in the design elements of the books, and I kind of broke through on that. So I think we're going to wrap these up and get these into production very, very soon. And I better hurry too, because I got to be ready by the time Summer finishes signing the sheets. A fresh start was a good guess, not quite. Got to go back farther than that. Let's see. Any other? Well, is there any other questions? It looks like we only have a couple minutes left, so I hope. Any interest in putting together a Thunderstorm Books convention where guests and authors and artists who? That would be a cool idea. I don't know, Todd. I think I don't know. Is El Paso the place to do that? You should put that together, Todd. I would come out if you put that together. Yeah, it's kind of a cool thing when I'm at like conventions, or when I even see panels, that sort of thing. I notice it's like, man, I'm a lot of the group. It's like, oh, I've published them, or I've met them. I know, it's kind of it could be a big convention. I haven't counted up how many I've published, but it would be a lot. Hagwitch of Creek. Close. Another close guess. You still got to go farther back, though. So yeah, a convention, that would be kind of cool. I don't know if I have the I don't know if I can put one together myself, though. I don't know if I don't know if that's my strength. I would need a really, really good team. Boom, Killer Chronicles. That's right. That's right, Keith. Killer Chronicles. So the last question And this one's a trick question in a way because it has not been announced, so you can't Google it. What was the first book I'm going to publish of Mr. Matt Wilderson? So you kind of got to guess at that one. And that one should be out. It's going to be only it's a really, really super limited thing that we're doing in a lettered format, which I've done a couple of. I don't have an example one, but they're kind of these cool little lettered things that I've been tinkering with, and I've done like 6 of them. I think Matt's is going to be number 7. So.
Sorry, we have one guest so far. Helps if I unmute.
Laurel Gore, that's a good guess. That's a good guess. If we don't, we'll go with it. If no one guesses it right, we'll let Matt pick the winner. He can.
Okay.
Closest one to it.
Again, if you are the winner of one of the giveaways for Paul, just send us an email to buzzbookexpo@gmail.com. The subject line should be the title of the book that you guessed. With Matt's, we'll do it the way we've been doing giveaways. It'll be first come first, whoever gets it first, whoever emails it first. We'll just make sure that you send us your mailing address so that the book doesn't end up in the great cosmos. And Paul, thank you so much for being
thank you
this year. It's always a pleasure.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate all the hard work you guys do behind the scenes putting this together.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That means a lot. Okay, great. We're going to take a little bit of a break, and then we will be back with Dark Moon Books. Bye, Paul.
Bye.
Hi, everyone. We are back with Dark Moon Books. Sorry, I apologize for the sound and the ads. Hi, everyone. StreamYard's giving us a hard time with audio. We're just having some audio hiccups, but Matt is working on fixing it. I could say we, the royal we, but honestly, it's Matt who's fixing it. So we'll get things fixed for you for the ads as well as we can. In the meantime, we have Dark Moon Books. I'm going to be bringing in Eric Guignard. Did I pronounce? I'm hoping I'm pronouncing the name right. He can correct me if I'm wrong when I bring him in. Joe Kaplan and Lisa Morton, and they're going to be telling you all about the press.
Hey, Mary, thank you
Hello.
so much for having us, for hosting Dark Moon Books. I really appreciate the time and work that you have put into this, as well as Matt and Summer. And
well, thank you. We appreciate you guys being on with us today.
Yeah, definitely. And thanks, Joe and Lisa, as well, my friends down here and compatriots in Southern California.
I will get out of your way, and you guys take the floor.
Awesome. And my last name, I generally pronounce it Guignard. It's not hard to say Guignard, but any variation is totally fine. I hear it all.
Guignard, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Dark Moon Books is an indie publisher based out of Southern California, the Los Angeles area, where I've been native to my entire life. We focus on horror and dark fantasy, and generally in terms of thoughtful literature that also happens to have these dark overtures. And I personally have always enjoyed kind of ghosts and mythology and superstitious notions, while also following tales that have morals and tales that you can read into multiple ways. Very dreamy prose, sometimes experimental, lots of different voices and ideas. For my own press, it typically follows what I enjoy reading, and that tends to be pulled away more from some of the tropes of horror, where other horror publishers may jump more into extreme horror, or like the blood and the gore and the guts, which is perfectly fine. And I personally, I love watching that on TV, and then I do occasionally love reading it. But in my own tastes, I've always just kind of preferred a little bit more of the quieter horror that tends to be a bit more introspective, a bit more, again, kind of thoughtful and interpretive. So that's just kind of a quick ideal of what I publish. Or I should say, the actual mission statement of Dark Moon Books is to publish unusual and invigorating dark fiction for readers around the world. And originally, this publishing house started off with another owner back in 2011. So we've been around for quite a while. And the original publisher was Stan Swanson, who ran Dark Moon Books. And he published some of my earlier works, and he kind of acted as a mentor for me in understanding how to publish anthologies, which has always been a huge passion for me. So I ended up taking over the press, and I rebranded it just based on primarily a publishing house for anthologies, as well as for kind of a more academic leading primer series that I put out, and then also some one-off passion projects, which I look at as niches to fill within the market. So I'm going to share my screen for just a moment. And I am going to just take a quick overview of some of the books that I've put out. So first off, I have a series of anthologies called the Horror Library. And this has been ongoing since the first one was back in 2006. And this also started off with another editor, and it's another project that I ended up kind of taking over and carrying over the banner for it, because I see great value in it. And the Horror Library Anthology series essentially publishes non-themed short fiction. So I just look at not a particular theme that you may see anthologies that are looking for zombies or ghosts, but I'm looking for this anthology series to share ideas that will promote horror, that will progress it a little bit more. And the series really means a lot to me. It's very near and dear to my heart. I've always been a short story reader and author my entire life, and I'm very happy to bring into this phone call as well Joe Kaplan and Lisa Morton, who are also very well established, successful and brilliant short fiction authors in their own right. So I'm going to take this moment to pass the mic over to first Joe Kaplan, who her and Lisa have both been published in this horror library anthology series. But I wanted to get a different perspective from Joe on why she enjoys writing short stories, what it means to her, what are the values of short stories, maybe her own experiences of working with Dark Moon Books. But I'm going to let her have it for just a few moments, Joe.
Hey, thanks, Eric. Yeah, so it's funny because a lot of people, I think when they start writing, they start with short fiction and then sort of build to novels. And I came at it in kind of the opposite way. I always wanted to write novels. I came into writing with, that's what I wanted to do. And then I kind of discovered the beauty of the short fiction form after that. Um, and I think also that some people start with short fiction because maybe it seems easier. I mean, it is shorter, obviously, less time commitment to write a short story than a novel, but it's it's not easy. There's something really cool about how short fiction condenses it's so much complexity. And I really like what you described about like the vibe that Dark Moon Books publishes, that sort of um little more like interpretive, almost like a literary style. I find that really enjoyable to read in short fiction when you can read it again and again and keep getting something new from that story. Um, so yeah, I think that there's so much you can do with short fiction that kind of separates it from the long form. You can be a little bit more experimental. You can try new things that maybe wouldn't work in that longer for, that wouldn't hold over the course of a novel. And that's why I really like writing short fiction, because rather than, when I'm sustaining a longer story and I'm working on that, it's really nice to step away and be like, I'm going to try something totally different. And you can also try things and you don't necessarily know if they're going to work. And it's okay. When you're writing a novel, you don't want to get halfway through and realize it's not working. That's a terrible feeling. But with a short story, maybe it won't work, but you can try it, and maybe it will work, and it'll be something different that you never thought you could come up with. Um, so I really appreciate that about the kind of short fiction that you tend to publish, because it is stories that step away from maybe the expected narrative style, the tropes, like you said, um, and kind of experiments with maybe different approaches, different perspectives. There's always such a diversity of writers that you bring into your anthologies, and I love them because it's not just like the same writers that you see again and again and again. I'm always discovering somebody new when I read one of your anthologies, and so it's really exciting to be, to get to be part of that. So when I get my contributor copies of like Horror Library, I'm always like, oh yeah, this is going to be great. I can't wait to see who else is in this. Not in terms of who else do I recognize, but who am I going to discover in this anthology. So I've really enjoyed getting the chance to work with Dark Moon Books. I mean, I've been published in a number of anthologies. I work with different publishers, and you can really tell when a publisher is not just passionate about the project, but puts in like the care to create a good product. I mean, there's a professionalism that I think makes these books they seem to me like they would be coming out of a much larger publishing house, that, you know, with the level of like professionalism and stuff. So I always love a good product, a beautiful book that I can hold in my hands that's been really well put together. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, y'all. I really appreciate that. I love the visual element, and I love this design aesthetics. So that is always a big part. In fact, I have several of my books here kind of behind me. So I always try to make very quality publications. In fact, this last book I'm particularly proud of, Professor Charlatan Bardot's travel anthology to the most fictional haunted buildings in the weird wild world, which won the previous year's Shirley Jackson Award and was nominated for a World Fantasy Award as well as the Stoker Award, and of course wouldn't have got there without the contributions of Joe and Lisa both. But this is just an example of an actual themed anthology. So before, where I mentioned the horror library is unthemed, I do additionally publish themed anthologies, which do have a common motif running through them. And this particular one was an exploration of fictional haunted buildings all over the world. And it's kind of formatted and designed as if it were an actual tour guide. So you could go out to these different nations and explore haunted buildings as written by authors of that culture that are familiar with that area. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen if I can, and just kind of highlight a few other themed anthologies. I also did another one that was geared just towards authors all over the world called A World of Horror. And I'm really hoping to put a second volume attached to that in the near future, because it had a chance to highlight new authors from every continent. And I just love exploring, hearing those different ideas and lore that I personally just may not have been accustomed to, having lived in Southern California my whole life. After Death, a themed anthology of what may occur after we die, and that one won a Bram Stoker Award, which I'm incredibly proud of. Several other anthologies. In addition to the themed anthologies, I publish Exploring Dark Short Fiction, which is a primer series. And this particular series, it's meant to just give a very high-level overview on authors who I consider to be masters of the short form, and who are living masters, essentially contemporary writers. Because for those of you who have gone through writing programs or even in high school literature, anybody who talks about horror in the short form will always reference H.P. Lovecraft and Edgar Allan Poe. And those are the two standbys, and these are writers who died hundreds of years ago. And the field today is just filled with so many rich voices of writers who have been working for decades and decades, continually putting out wonderful short fiction. So I wanted to write books that have a very light academic sense to them, of authors that I feel should be explored in the classrooms today and in the future. So this is just a very short, brief sampling. Obviously, I mean, there's hundreds of other authors, and I have a huge long list that I look through, but I also have certain criteria of writers that I want to look at who have been writing for at least 25 years, and writers that have reshaped their career, that I can look at their work from their older time and their newer time, but they're still remaining relevant, and they're still continually putting out work. So they're growing, they're progressing, and they've been meaningful voices in this industry. So the first one I started off with was Steve Rasnick-Tem, who was just a treasure of writing unto himself. Second volume for Australian Karen Warren. The third volume for Nisi Shaw, who I adore her writing, for kind of an exploration of African-American mythology. And she just has this very poetic and meaningful sense in her writing. The fourth volume is Jeffrey Ford, who one of my absolute favorite authors. I have to say, every time a new anthology comes out, I mean, I may buy it just on the strength that there's a Jeffrey Ford story included in it. Fifth author was Han Song, And this was a primer that I translated from Chinese into English. And Han Song is considered one of the 3 greatest living science fiction authors in China. And so they actually don't see horror as a genre in itself. So horror is just kind of mixed into science fiction. And also, although Han is predominantly more of a science fiction author, his stories do have these very horrific, dark elements. And it was really just a fantastic journey to go down this path and kind of translate his work into the English language. 6th volume is one of the most well-known and prolific authors today, and that's English author Ramsey Campbell. And then I'm currently working on Canadian genius Gemma Files, and I've been looking forward to getting this one into production for a while, and hopefully it'll be out in the next few months. Lastly, I also have a particular love for the classics, understanding where we came from, looking at horror literature in the 1700s, the 1800s, the 1900s, looking at those authors who inspired us, who kind of crafted the works that we as authors today read growing up, and it kind of helped to meld the voices that we in turn have made our own. But I always do like to look back at that, what's come before us. So one of my current projects that I'm particularly thrilled for, and I will be releasing this in about 2 months, is Phantasmagoriana. And this was the anthology that inspired Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. So for those of you who have heard the story, Lord Byron and Percy Shelley and Mary Shelley and a group of young writers all got together in Switzerland, and they read ghost stories out of this anthology, and then they each retired that evening to start writing their own stories. And from that night, there is just a wealth of literature that spawned out of this. So the stories were originally German ghost stories that were collected and translated into French. And that is what they read, was the French version called Phantasmagoriana. And then an English translator partially translated those stories into English, but she left out a few, she added in her own and recalled it Tales of the Dead. But I went back and had translated those missing stories from French and combined them all for the first time into one single edition of all English translated stories that were related to that night, and that's called Phantasmagoriana Deluxe. And Lisa Morton here was very kind enough to write the introduction to it. And Lisa Morton also has an immense amount of knowledge, background in the historic classics. She's been instrumental in a series of classics that I also edited for Sourcebook, called The Haunted Library of Horror Classics, where we would revisit old classics and write academic questions to them, put together reading lists, kind of do a little bit of a deeper dive, but just look to promote horror to a broader audience. And that's kind of what I'm doing here for Phantasmagoriana Deluxe. But I wanted to pass the mic over to Lisa, let the audience kind of hear from a different perspective and from someone who is a lot more wiser than myself. So, Lisa, what are your thoughts on looking at horror literature from a historic context and what that means to us today, and kind of the values of still rising up or raising up those who came before us?
Well, first of all, thank you, Eric and Mary and everybody at BuzzBook Expo for letting me come in and talk about one of my favorite things, which is classic horror literature. I think a lot of people hear us talking about this old stuff and think, well, I don't want to read that, or come on, what is there really outside of Frankenstein and Dracula? And my quick answers are that the history of horror literature is longer and broader than most people realize. And the value of what publishers like Eric are doing is bringing these treasures back out in editions that make them much more accessible to modern readers. Yes, it's true that the English language has changed a lot since 1764, which is when the first true modern horror novel was published, and that was Horace Walpole's The Castle of Otranto, which Eric oversaw an edition of in our Haunted Library of Horror Classics. But that is exactly why the new versions of these classics include stuff like footnotes and introductions and discussion questions. And here's the real deal with these books. They have stood the test of time because they are still really scary and very entertaining. And you might be surprised by how contemporary some of them feel. And let me tell you that they are better than most of the movies that you have seen. If you have never read Dracula and Frankenstein, or for that matter, The Phantom of the Opera, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, The Picture of Dorian Gray, Ghost Stories of an Antiquary, or The King in Yellow, trust me when I tell you that you are in for a treat, because if you have any interest in becoming a horror author in particular, these books are your basic education. But if you are just looking for a great read, they're going to work for that too. Now, Eric asked me to talk, obviously, about Phantasmagoriana, which I am so happy that he asked me to do the introduction for. Um, and one of the perplexing things about this book is that it is one of those things that should be enshrined in literary history, and for some reason or other has gotten overlooked. Um, he's already explained what makes this so important, that it was the volume of ghost stories that inspired Frankenstein, and also possibly some work from Byron and Polidori, who created the vampire after hearing these stories. This book, it is perplexing why it has been somewhat overlooked. It had this strange publishing history that Eric mentioned, going from German to French to partly to English, with stories deleted and added along the way. But that is exactly what makes Eric's new edition so exciting, that he has pieced it back together. And so we can re-experience it much more along the way that Mary and her friends did. And these stories are still amazing. I mean, here is Mary Shelley's own description of these stories, which she wrote 15 years after hearing them. 15 years. She still remembered them like this. Some volumes of ghost stories translated from the German into French fell into our hands. There was the history of the inconstant lover who, when he thought to clasp the bride to whom he had pledged his vows, found himself in the arms of a pale ghost of her whom he had deserted. Then there was the tale of the sinful founder of his race, whose miserable doom it was to bestow the kiss of death on all the younger sons of his fated house, just when they reached the age of promise. His gigantic, shadowy form, clothed like the ghost in Hamlet in complete armor, but with the beaver up, was seen at midnight by the moon's fitful beams to advance slowly along the gloomy avenue. The shape was lost beneath the shadow of the castle walls, but soon a gate swung back, a step was heard, the door of the chamber opened, and he advanced to the couch of the blooming youth, cradled in healthy sleep. Eternal sorrow set upon his face as he bent down and kissed the forehead of the boys, who from that hour withered like flowers snapped upon the stalk. I have not seen these stories since then, but their incidents are as fresh in my mind as if I had read them yesterday. So I can tell you that, having seen the finished book, Eric has put together an absolutely gorgeous volume, complete with period illustrations that he sourced, and lots of extras. And I hope that everyone will consider picking one up. Thank you, everyone, and happy Halloween season.
Happy Halloween season indeed. The countdown has commenced. And thank you so much for sharing all that, Lisa. All right, I got a question coming here. When translating, how do you make sure not to lose the original context or subtext? So there looks like there's kind of two different answers to that. One is that I've had translated work from authors who are deceased, and then I've also had translated work from authors who are still living. So, for example, the work from Han Song that I had translated from Chinese, I had an interpreter who has worked with Han Song before, and between the three of us, we are going back and forth to ensure that what is being translated into English is going back again to the author, retranslated from English back to Chinese to ensure that there's the proper message. So in that case, I was very fortunate that he can look back and say, well, no, this isn't quite what I meant. And fortunately, also, he has a basic rudimentary ability to speak English, so I can kind of communicate with him. For authors who are deceased, it's a little bit more trickier because then it's a much more subtle measurement of ensuring that I'm getting the subcontext of what the author meant from 100 years ago. And I will promise you, there is incredibly, probably boring conversation to most people, but really fascinating conversation to me, where I will have something translated from German into English, and I will literally look at that and say, I don't know what this means, which entails a lot of academic research, of going back into other literature of that time era and trying to see, what does this turn of phrase actually mean? Was this an actual expression that people used? Or was this an insult? Was this, am I misinterpreting this? And I will reach out to people like Lisa, who's had a lot of background in doing other translation works. And I'll reach out to others, and basically I'll try to get a mass consensus of people that agree with me, or at least can just explain with a little chuckle, oh, yeah, this, you wouldn't want somebody to ever say this to you, and maybe from that point we would rechange it. But along the line, me as an editor, I am reviewing all of the translations, and I'm essentially working with that translator to take not just the literal word-for-word translation, but smoothing it out and making it readable and accessible for a modern English-speaking audience. Great question, by the way. Before I end, I should ask if there were any other questions that I can jump into.
I keep forgetting to unmute my mic. If anyone has any other questions, put them here. Otherwise, we are, I think we're probably at about time. Thank you so much, really, for being on this panel. I think what you're doing is very important. I fully support the idea of remembering the rich history of our particular genre and the importance of what came before, so that we know what direction we're going in the present and the future. So thank you, all of you, for being on the BuzzBook Expo panel today. And I really best of luck to what you're doing, because it sounds fantastic and the books look beautiful.
Awesome. Thank you again so much, Mary. I really appreciate your kind words, and I appreciate doubly your support. What you say, it means a great deal, and inviting us to be part of BuzzBook Expo. And also thank you again, Lisa and Joe, for your time in joining us.
Absolutely. It was delightful to have you all. Thank you so much. Okay, folks, we've got about 2 minutes. We think we have fixed the sound issue, so we're going to run a quick ad, and then we will be back with Spooky House Press with Rob Atone. So hang in there.
Dark Moon Books presents Horror Library, one of the most groundbreaking and best-selling horror fiction anthology series on the market today. Since 2006, the Horror Library series of anthologies has been internationally praised as a groundbreaking source of contemporary horror short fiction stories, relevant to the moment and stunning in impact from leading authors of the macabre and darkly imaginative. Filled with fears and fantasy, death and dark dreams, monsters and mayhem, literary vision and wonder, each volume of the Horror Library series is packed with heart-pounding thrills and creepy contemplations as to what truly lurks among the shadows of the worlds we live in. Shamble no longer through the banal humdrum of normalcy, but enter the Horror Library, available anywhere. Dark Moon Books presents Author Spotlight from the anthology Horror Library, Volume 8.
Mazu, goddess of the sea. You call my body at 1 a.m., and naturally, I answer. Though my wife complains that I sleep through most of daylight, having spent late nights with you, parting only after we watch the sunrise together, she would much prefer it to me lying next to her, dreaming a dream much different than the one she has both while asleep and awake. Today is my day off, rather than the large motor-ram boat I share with other fishermen during the week to provide for Fudo's seafood markets. I head for the rowboat instead, the one I purchased with the spare change I saved up for you, the one I hid and still hiding from my wife. She thinks I work 7 days a week, but on Sundays, I reserve those past midnight hours for you. I unfastened the rope securing the boat to the dock with shaky, excited fingers. I envy that our boat receives your caress first, the way it remains buoyant, as though mocking my incompetency, the fragility of my mortality and my perishable human body. But you never fail to make me feel the shiver that raises the hairs on my legs as I tread into you, pushing the boat gently into your waves. I sigh low when I leave you, drawing my legs into the wooden divider between us. But it calms me when I lower my oar, feeling your resistance, feeling your welcome against its painted body, the vibration against my palms. Farther and farther into your core I push until I can barely see the dock. My home sitting in the distance, until I am almost lost, but not quite, but completely, utterly surrounded by you, and the scent of salt and fish so different from my wife's chemical rose shampoo, a scent so much more alluring.
The Horror Library, available anywhere fine books are sold.
Hi, everyone. We're back. We're going to bring in Robatone with Spooky House Press.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Sweet.
I will get out of your way. We have, make sure I'm doing this right.
Ooh.
And pretty. And then let you take the stage.
Cool. Thank you. Oh, hello, everyone. So yeah, a little bit about my small press, Spooky House Press. We're based in New York, specifically on Long Island. But we have been very busy the past year. But a little bit about where we've been and where we're going. I also have 2 cover reveals for you in this presentation. So we started in 2019, so we're still pretty new. And we started with my first collection, People, and then from there we moved on to publishing Michael Jess Alexander's Boarded Windows, Dead Leaves, which won 2 awards, as you can see there, Reader's Favorite Award and an Indies Today Award. And that is a really fabulous collection of short fiction, and Michael is a majorly talented author. And from there, I kind of wanted to shift to publishing other people. I didn't want to just publish myself. But again, publishing myself has been fun, but it's also, I'd rather focus on other people's work. So my second collection, Her Infernal Name and Other Nightmares, was released as well the same year as Boarded Windows, Dead Leaves, a couple months after. And the 2 of those, the sales of both of those have been very, very strong for us, to the point where it was able to power our very busy 2022-2023. We released 6 books total in that time, starting in November with Patrick Barb's Helicopter Parenting in the Age of Drone Warfare, which did really well and still doing well. The White Horse, Rebecca Harrison's amazing gothic sort of folk horror novel. Then we went into the middle grade space with Kathleen Palm's Into the Gray, which is really wonderful. I love that story so much. Then we got weird and transgressive with The Disappearance of Tom Nero by T.J. Price. I really love that book. We played with form a lot with that one. We were sort of our House of Leaves, I guess you could say. It's very strange, very dark, and a lot of fun. I really love that one. And interior design was by Alexis Macaluso on that. And then we have Residents of Honeysuckle Cottage, which came out in, I think, July, August. And that's by Elizabeth Davidson. And that just scratched all of my folk horror itch there. And I love that cover very much. It's by Leah Garbarajan. I think I'm saying her name right. I feel bad if I'm not. And our most recent release is Nikki Lee's Her Teeth Like Waves with a cover by Matt Wildison, which I really love. And so all 6 of these books now, obviously we had 5. One was in November of 2022 and the rest were in 2023. We were kind of on a trajectory of every 2 months or every 3 months or so releasing a new title. And it was very busy for us. Now, with Her Teeth Like Waves, which we're sort of seeing as like a final goodbye to summer because it is a beachy, monstery, bloody, as you can see from the cover, read. It's sort of a transition period for us going into the rest of 2023 and into 2024. We had 6 books from November of 2022 up until August of 2023. Now we're sort of slowing down a little bit. My own writing is picking up a lot after winning the Stoker, and I have a lot of commitments that I need to focus on myself. But we are releasing 4 books between 2024, sort of the end of 2023 and throughout 2024. And I have a cover reveal for 2 of those coming now. The first one is by the amazing Mo Mashadi, and it's called Claire Violence. It's Tales of Tarot and Torment. And this is the first volume, which tells you that we will be publishing 2 volumes of amazing short fiction by Mo Mashadi. She is an incredible talent. She's from upstate New York, so we got that New York vibe together, which is great. She is just wonderful. Very cinematic sensibility, and I just love her stuff. So when the opportunity arose to publish 2 volumes of her short fiction, I was like, hell yeah. And that'll be early winter 2024, late 2023 is when we're looking at that. Then we have from the amazing Ivy Grimes, with illustrations and cover design by Alana Baldwin, we have Star Shapes, which is a very interesting cosmic gothic novella. That's the best way to describe it. I couldn't put it down. It was all one sitting for me. It was just remarkable. And I'm really excited about this one. But yeah, those are the 2 covers. We also have, like I said, Mo Mashadi's book is a 2-volume work. So we have 2 from her. Then we have Star Shapes by Ivy Grimes in between the 2 of those. And then towards the end of 2024, we have a collection by a new author named B. Highland. She's very young. She's also from New York. And it makes it sound like I only publish New Yorkers. I promise that's not the case. B. Highland is an amazing short story writer. She reminds me a lot of Michael Sisko. Her work is very transgressive, very interesting, very exciting. So we don't have a title yet. She sent me a title and I like it. I just don't know that we're ready to really throw it out there yet. And we don't have a cover yet, but that is one that'll come likely towards I would say the middle to end of summer 2024, if I could guess. And then going further into 2025, we're going to be doing our first anthology. And this is a 100% proceed anthology will be going to a charity that I found that I'm really excited about. So it is 100% for charity. Nobody, I'm not making anything on it. We have an amazing cover by Chad Lutsky already for that one. And I'm really excited. That's kind of the super exciting like passion project is a thing with Spooky House is we always have 10%, at least 10% of our books, every book sold goes to charity. So having an anthology that where 100% of the proceeds will go to charity is really exciting to me. So that'll be in 2025, most likely. We're going to start assembling it, my editors and I, probably in May of 2024. We're going to work on it and work on it all through the rest of 2024 and then have it in shape for October 2025. So that's kind of Spooky House up until 2025, at the very least, fall of 2025. But how do you balance your own work with the publishing? That's a great question. Very difficult. I find that taking, the early part of my day before I settle into my own writing and doing Spooky House stuff is the way to go. Right now, it's a little slower because we're waiting on revisions and edits from my editors for a couple of the books that I mentioned already. So it's a little slower right now, which is great. But, usually I'll do Spooky House stuff in my free time in the morning, and then I transition into my own writing in late morning up until like late afternoon, early evening. And then I call it a day. And then I usually smoke a cigar or drink some wine or whatever to celebrate a job well done. I work like 7 days a week. So I work 6 days a week, really, doing like my normal job. But then with the Spooky House stuff, it's really 7 days a week because Saturdays are dedicated all to writing and Spooky House stuff. Excellent question, though. Any other questions in the chat? Let's see. I see comments from Red Lego. Ivy Grimes is great. That is a fact. She is wonderful. Wow, there's a lot of comments. Hello, everybody. Hi, Amanda. I just clicked over to the comments. Like, that's crazy.
Right. There are really some great comments. I do have a question.
Yeah.
And maybe you addressed this, and I apologize if I missed it. Star Shapes by is that cosmic horror?
It's a little cosmic, yeah. It
Okay.
definitely is more like sun-baked gothic, but there is cosmic to it. There's some cosmicism in there, and it's really exciting. I love Ivy Grimes' stuff. I love Mo Mashadi's stuff, and I'm so excited to publish both of them.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like some great stuff. Since we've been asking the different publishers, what are you doing with Spooky House Press that is maybe a little bit outside the box in terms of marketing and building the business?
Yeah, so we're very lucky that we have like a pretty deep reservoir of reviewers that we are able to work with. And, I send out paperbacks whenever I can. I usually send out a small amount because it is, costly to produce them. But like, I think some of the stuff that we like to do is I like to work with some of my strategic partners. So I have, the wonderful people at Horror Tree are doing an article series about some of our authors. So that's a sort of an organic thing that we're doing where Jackie DePolone is interviewing a bunch of our authors and spotlighting them and spotlighting their works throughout the year. And, I like to do fun, weird things. So like with TJ Price's book, we had TJ was amazing. He's a far better artist than I am, where he took real world pictures and put the word screb in it. Now, screb is like, think of it like a thought contagion, and screb is the word that gets stuck in people's heads. And so he was putting that all over, like, the trains of New York City, and he was putting it on billboards and on, spray painting it on walls and stuff. But it was all Photoshop and stuff. So we like to do weird stuff like that, like whatever we could do to have fun with our books. Of course, I do the traditional marketing and advertising stuff as well. But I am looking at something in particular that's kind of interesting to me to sort of expand our reach in terms of reviews and whatnot, because I'd like to get more reviews on our stuff. Our sales are great. I'm happy with that. We've been in the black since my second collection and haven't really looked back. But the idea it would be to get more reviews. Like I really believe that, specifically if I'm going to call out one of our books, I think, Kathy Palm's Into the Gray deserves a ton of attention because it's a really positive, beautiful book about what it means for someone to not be okay, and that's a good lesson for middle grade era students. So I would like to see more attention on that one for sure.
Speaking of reviews, I know we have a lot of reviewers here in the chat, and I was just curious, just because just as it came up, something like NetGalley.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about using something like that, like tools to get uh, more reviews, and what what other steps do you think along those lines can writers and publishers take to get uh, more review attention?
I've seen a lot of weird things happen with NetGalley where like people who don't read the genre get the work and they end up not loving it and they end up giving it not a great review. And it's like, well, I don't normally read horror, but I picked this up, and it's like, well, then why did you pick it up? Because it just doesn't translate to, it's almost like you're guaranteeing a not great review based on your proclivities or whatever. But I've honestly found like the more organic, like working with bookstagrammers and working with some key people in providing them early copies of the books, whether it's physical or whether it's just you know digital copy or whatever, has been far more successful than trying to like, oh, we're going to use like a NetGalley or something like that. I like seeing our books organically pop up in places, even if it means less reviews. Like I said, it hasn't. The fact that the reviews have not come in like hot and heavy is interesting, compared to the sales, because our sales are way better than the amount of reviews we have. Thank you, Stephanie Ellis, for ordering Residence of Honeysuckle Cottage. It's very good. I love it. I love that cover too.
If folks do have any questions, we still have a few minutes. Feel free to post them in the comments and just tag them question so that I don't miss them and I can pop them up on the screen. Oh, here we go. We have one for Amanda.
Yeah. What are you looking for in books that make you want to publish it? I want something that's going to make me not want to put it down. So, for example, Helicopter Parenting in the Age of Drone Warfare, Patrick pitched it as we need to talk about Kevin meets Black Mirror. And at the time when that came in, I was finishing up The Vile Thing We Created, which I was kind of seeing in the vein of like, we need to talk about Kevin. So I was like, well, this scratches that itch. And it was very, very, very good. So yeah, that was, I'm always looking for something that moves me. I'm looking for things that are different. Also, I have to say this, you'll see a lot of names on here that you may not be super familiar with. Like Patrick Barb, you probably know. Ivy Grimes, you guys know. Mo Mashadi, hopefully you know more. But Elizabeth Davidson, Rebecca Harrison, Kathleen Palm, these are newer names, right? That's kind of the goal of Spooky House Press, is to publish people who may not have like, a bigger name, or like somebody who's like not as well known or whatever, than another author, right? Like I'd rather give somebody the first, step and then let them go from there. Our contracts are short. I'm happy to like mention like our contracts are not lengthy contracts. It's like 2 years, and then you get the rights back, or you have the option to renew, which Michael Jess Alexander did. He just renewed his. But I don't want to hold up people's material. I pay often early. I don't know. I don't like waiting for my money from publishers. So the last thing I want to do is keep my authors waiting for their money. Also, I'm really annoying with keeping everybody in the loop with like the tiniest bit of development on a cover or on edits or anything. So, you can ask, let's, I guess, who's a good choice there? Oh, Patrick Barb. I was obnoxiously emailing him like, hey, just wanted to let you know the cover's going to be done this day. Hey, I want you to take a look at it. I'm very into communication and being open with my authors and stuff, because I don't find anything worse than waiting to hear back from my publishers and waiting to hear back from, about my work. So I don't want other people to feel that way. So yeah, I like not unknown authors, but newer authors, because I want them to have a positive first publishing experience.
That sounds great. I mean, we certainly can't complain about being paid early, and having somebody. One of the things that we have seen, and which delights me over the course of the last 2 days, is a lot of publishers who really care. They're excited about what they're doing, and they really care about the authors that they're working with, and it's really refreshing to see that people, that so many publishers are putting their authors first. It's great to see. I also did want to tell you before we let you go that um, Brian Keene has he mentioned that he's reading the Vile Thing that we created, and he seems to love it because
Oh,
yeah, he keeps talking about it, and so he really seems to be enjoying it. So I just wanted to let you know that.
that
And
made
I
me
wanted to thank you again for being part of the BuzzBook Expo. It's been really great having you here, and we really appreciate your coming on today. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and thank you everybody for your questions and stuff. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your Sunday.
Thank you. You too. Take care, Rob. Okay, folks. So we have a little break coming up, and then we have St. Rooster Books, and so hang in there, and we will be right back. Hi, folks. We're back. We are waiting for our next presenter. While we're waiting, I thought, I know that I'm supposed to do closing remarks. It's on the schedule, but I did want to pop in and list some reminders and some things that I've been thinking about while over the last 2 days while the expo was going on. Number one, I just wanted to remind folks, if you are part of a giveaway, and or a winner of a giveaway, or you want to be involved in one of the giveaways, the email for us is buzzbookexpo@gmail.com, and remember to put whatever subject line we told you to throughout the course of the 2 days. Put that subject line in so we know which giveaway it's for. And for the most part, I think with the exception of French Press, we would need your full name and a mailing address in the body of the email so that we know where to send the giveaway stuff to. Another thing we want to mention, I don't know about you folks, but I am loving the ads that we've been getting. I think every year they just get better and better, and they're delightful to me. If you are unfamiliar, and we talked a little bit about this early on in the beginning of yesterday's set when I did the opening remarks, the ads are essentially book trailers. Rather, just to keep it simple, they're basically book trailers. People have done some beautiful, really truly beautiful and creative things with the ads that they have sent us. We probably during the closing remarks, we have a couple of things that we want to announce in terms of Buzz Books in general, and also some things for you, especially our faithful attendees who have come to these both days, and really been active in the chat. We really appreciate the participation. And there are some things that we would like to get from you in terms of feedback on certain things. But basically, I do like the idea of the ads. I think that they're beneficial, and I think that they're beneficial not just in terms of the Expo Live, but because they are part of the live stream that is recorded, that is saved for posterity, essentially, on the the recorded versions of the live streams on the YouTube channel. Then what we have noticed is there are a lot of people that watch these live streams, the recorded versions, in post Expo. So it's continual promotion and continual advertising for the presses and the authors and their books. So we like to see them. We like to see the ads. If you would like to participate in Buzz Book Expo, if you are a publisher, self-published author, if you would like to participate in presenting something for us, please do contact us at BuzzBookExpo and at BuzzBookExpo@gmail.com, and we will get you all the information that you need. Now, I see that Tim's here from St. Rooster Books. I'm going to bring him right in. Hi, Tim.
Hey, Mary. Sorry for the delay.
Oh, no problem. No problem. I was just riffing with the peeps. So I will get out of your way, and you take the stage and tell us all about St. Rooster Books.
Okay, great. So St. Rooster Books, we've been around since about 2010, and we are an independent publisher of horror, transgressive, weird, crime, and a little bit of science fiction, which we just started this year with Tommy Clark's A Prayer from the Dead. And we have a sort of punk attitude towards publishing. We're very DIY, and we publish a wide range of authors: Paul Buchesky, Reed Alexander, Tommy Clark, as I mentioned, John Baltusberger, lots of award-nominated authors, and we just started working with Eddie McNamara for his debut crime novel, Brooklyn Hardcore. And at the end of the month, we've got the new short story collection from Paul Kane coming out. So that is about who we are, and we for the remainder of the year, we've got a new book from me. Now, I did release my debut novel, Summer's Venomous Kiss, earlier this year, and I've got another book that I've co-written with my daughter called The Castle at the Edge of the Void, coming out in late December, probably in time for Christmas. And December will also have the final issue of Stranger with Friction, our literary magazine that we started publishing. It'll be 3 years in December. And we 10 issues. We've come to the end of the line with it. I think it's time to pull the plug on it. But we've had a number of great authors give us fiction and nonfiction. And we are going to go out on a high note, I think. And all the back issues will stay in print.
Hi, I have a quick question. If I can just interject here. When I first started, a lot of the traditional wisdom of the time was that as a fiction writer, you submit a lot of short stories to magazines, and that's where book publishers are looking to find like the next crop of writers. As a publisher who has done both magazine and book publishing, do you find that that's true still? Do you tend to look for authors to publish in book format based on ones who submitted to the magazine?
In my personal experience, the last few years of doing the magazine, I haven't picked up anybody. No, take that back. One author, Jeremy Lowe, who has been in every issue of the magazine. We're doing his debut short story collection. And it wasn't the magazine that he got started with us. It was in an anthology, our Punksploitation anthology, Kids of the Black Hole. He submitted, and that was his fiction debut. And he's all of his fiction has been published with us. He's been in all of our anthologies, I believe, and every issue of the magazine. And he's definitely earned a standalone book based on his great work and consistency, and every story gets better. So there's that. And but most of the other authors I worked with, people have been kind of in and out. Our regular authors, they already had books with us before they showed up in the magazine. So at least in Jeremy's case, showing up for anthologies and the magazine open calls got him a book deal, because he was always tenacious and getting that stuff out, doing a good job, and always improving. So yeah.
See, that's neat. It almost seems like in a lot of people's cases it worked the opposite way, like that. But I do think it's interesting that you mentioned anthologies. Because I can definitely see that, at least as a reader, that's where I've found a lot of writers who I've then gone on to read their book length works because of that. We do have a question from Millie. I'm going to pop it in to the.
After over a decade of publishing, is there anything that you would go back and change? Yeah, because for me, I'm sorry to keep moving the camera around. For me, when I started, this was my own project. I wasn't publishing other authors, and so I had a way of doing things that was very different than. I think I was fairly non-traditional, because when I started out, I wasn't friends with other publishers. I wasn't even friends with very many authors. So I wasn't asking for advice or anything. I was kind of learning things on my own. So the comfortable way of doing things that I developed for myself that worked turned out to not translate very well when you're working with other people. And so it would have been helpful to know other publishers and get advice early on instead of learning things the hard way. And that's been one of the main things that I've learned over the last couple of years, especially the last 3 years. We've grown at sort of a breakneck speed. In 2018, I think we had 6 books out, and now we've had 55 books out. That's a busy schedule, and I have a day job, so I'm never. Oh yeah, I've got a full-time job that I'm gone like about 60 hours a week, and then the publishing house itself is a full-time job. So things would have been a lot easier if I had known a lot of the ins and outs of the business beforehand, before I started publishing so many people. And it just sort of happened. It was snowballed so fast. But I've gotten a handle on it now. I think this year I've changed the way I've done a lot of things, and it's gotten easier. So I say yeah, seeking advice earlier, talking to people who've been doing this longer than me, or at least are on the journey in the same time frame, would have been helpful. So yeah, always ask for advice. That's what I would say I would have changed.
I have another question for you. One of the things we've been asking the different publishers over the course of the last 2 days is that with the evolving landscape of publishing, the fact that everything changes so quickly, is there anything that St. Rooster Books is doing that's maybe sort of outside the box or different, or anything you want to try in terms of marketing or growing the business?
I think my taste in what I published and publishing is one thing that sets us apart, because I don't see other horror publishers publishing nonfiction books on a regular basis, and we're adding more of those, and we got a lot more in the pipeline coming up. So I think that's one thing that we're adding. So it's definitely horror adjacent. I think I know a lot of horror fans. They're also punk and metal fans, and so Jerome Ruder's Metallica book and his Black Sabbath book that just came out this summer, and his upcoming 2-volume Iron Maiden book, I think will appeal to a lot of the people who read our fiction. I know there's a lot of doom metal fans that are also fans of Tommy Clark's work because of the crossover with metal and folk horror and stuff. So I think that's that, and the dedication to like the punk DIY aesthetic, I think is what we do uniquely. I don't see other people doing our style covers. At Wife's work, it's not being. I just don't see anything similar to it. I've got a couple of her. She's got a distinct style that I don't see out there a lot. So I think that's another thing that we've got going for us, that I think is an important weapon in our arsenal. Does that answer the question?
It does, actually, and I like that you brought up the music element, because I do believe that there's traditionally always been a crossover between heavy metal and horror fans.
Yeah.
And do you find then that you can tap into markets, like say at concerts or at, like, I think it's called Rock and Shock, the convention up in New England, where it's heavy metal and horror, and where you can do more promotion to music fans as well, because you're doing so much of that crossover?
On the rock side, I've not seen it because I've not been. I haven't been to rock shows selling books, but the Black Flag book. I'm in some punk rock metal Facebook groups, and people who have bought that book have been interested in crossover and bought the fiction also. And when I'm doing like a book convention, I've had there's you see a lot of like Misfits patches and the Black Flag bars and a lot of heavy metal T-shirts. And when I've got the table laid out, they zero in on the Black Flag book. They come over and start asking questions. Or Paul Bachesky's 3 Hits from the Holler is the cover is a reference to the Misfits, 3 Hits from Hell, and a similar that skull design grabs people's attention. And so people who are fans of Misfits and Metallica and Black Flag, they come over, they start asking questions, and they get interested in the fiction books. And I had one guy he was wearing like a Misfits T-shirt, and we got to talking, and he wanted to buy all 3 of John Baltusberger's books because the kaiju body horror thing was like right up his alley, and he was excited for that. So there is crossover, and it's something I definitely would like to explore more in the future, especially trying to get merch tables and stuff like at concerts or at Rock and Shock. I would love to attend that one year.
I think that's great to hear, because I do think that's a potentially under-considered market, because I do think there's a lot of crossover there with punk and metal and horror fans. I don't want to keep monopolizing all the questions. So, folks, if you have questions, we've got about 3 minutes left. Tag it in the comments as a question, and we'll get it up on screen. But since I am here, since I'm already here, I do have one more question for you, and sure. That is, what would you for the writers in the crowd here, if they wanted to submit to you, what kind of stuff are you looking for currently?
Right now, because I've got folk horror covered, I've got a lot of Southern Gothic covered. I've got a go-to guy for horror comedy if I want that. What I'm looking for now is crime fiction, but I want it to cross over with horror. I want there to, because horror is our bread and butter. That's who we are. So I don't want to be off-brand too much. So to see more crime horror crossover, I'd be interested in seeing that. And also more diverse voices. I just don't hear from a lot of people other than white dudes. I hear from a lot of white dudes. So I would like to diversify our little family.
That's great to hear. If there's any final questions, like I say, we've got about 2 minutes left. Let us know, and we'll get them up for Tim to answer. But otherwise, I want to thank you for being on the BuzzBook Expo this year.
Thanks for having me back. Sorry for the technical difficulties at the beginning.
Not a problem. Not a problem. It happens pretty much every year where there's some. We had a couple of sound hiccups, but we've been saying that we're really just so excited to see so many publishers who are doing different things and unique things, and are excited about it. And look out for the authors that they're working with, and it's just been. It's really cool, and also one of the things I've noticed is the different subgenres. We've pretty much had it across the boards, from very quiet horror to extreme horror to from fiction and nonfiction, and we're just hearing from pretty much every side of and every little corner of the small press. It's been great.
There's a great future ahead. I think this is a wonderful time to be a horror fan, because
I agree.
It's an embarrassment of riches, really. There's so many talented people working right now. It's amazing.
Absolutely, and more than there ever has been. It's been really great. So anyway, thank you so much, Tim, for being a part of the Expo.
Thank you so much. It's good to talk to you again.
Great to see you again. Take care. Okay, folks, we have another ad for you. Got some ads coming up, and then we have RJ Rolls, who is going to tell us about the Books of Horror Facebook group. We're really excited about this, so hang in with us, and we will be back.
Dark Moon Books presents Author Spotlight from the anthology Horror Library, Volume 8.
Hi, this is Ari Busby, and I'm here to read my story, Only the Stones Will Hear You Scream, from Horror Library, Volume 8. It was a tight squeeze. That was all. In a moment, Pete would work his hand free, and like Superman flying below the breathing earth, he would stretch until his fingers found a way through the crack in the rock. Ahead lay a larger cave chamber where he could turn around and head back to the light. There had to be. Kevin had explained it all to him the night before. Here it is. They call this passage Daddy's Home. They'd been in Kevin's Jeep in the warm Nevada dusk, neither willing to go inside yet. Pete had taken the phone, keenly aware of Kevin's fingers, and stared at the cave map, unsure what he was seeing. It looked like a bird's claw with bends and tubes branching from a central tunnel. Like an ant farm, Pete murmured. I thought caves were, well, chambers with stalactites. Hating how foolish he sounded, he added, sorry, not many geology classes for business. For a moment, he had forgotten his own major. Over dinner, Kevin's dad had casually asked about Pete's plans after graduation, that adult variation on what do you want to be when you grow up? And Pete had been stuck. Again. It was unsettling. Kevin gave an easy laugh. Well, some caves really are big chambers, stalactites included. Others look like, what'd you say, ant farms? He nodded. That's perfect, Pete. Ever thought about majoring in English? Pete shot him a sharp glance, but Kevin's eyes held only interest and kindness. No, my dad would never. Pete shook his head, unsure if he should continue. Then he did. When I was applying to colleges before Dad got cancer, he told me I'd be majoring in business or food stamps.
The Horror Library, available anywhere fine books are sold.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Expo. We are now going to bring in RJ Rolls and Mike Enenbach, and they are going to be talking to us about the Books of Horror Facebook group and the anthologies that basically it's gonna be really cool. I'm really looking forward to it. Hello, RJ, and hello, Mike. How are you guys doing?
Hello. Hello.
How's everything going?
It's going good. Going good.
Great. All right. Well, I am going to bounce out of here. I have questions, so I will be back. But I'm going to bounce out. If anyone else has questions for these guys while they're talking, remember, just tag it with question in the comments, and we'll get it up on the screen for the guys to answer. In the meantime, tell us about Books of Horror.
Hello, my name is RJ Rolls, and I guess I'm one of the 4 admin of Books of Horror, and I am the lead guy behind the Books of Horror anthologies. I started the group way back in 2016, and as of today, I think we're about 41,000 members or so. So that's me in a nutshell, author, publisher. Turn it over to Mike.
I'm Mike Enenbach. I'm a poet and writer, and I'm RJ's lackey.
The best lackey. Mike was my co-editor for the most recent Books of Horror anthology. That's volume 4. I've had a different co-editor with each volume, so Mike's with me for this one, so he joined me today.
Yeah, I'm here.
Mary, jump in.
Jump in and ask a question if that's okay. Before we get to talking about the anthologies, I do have a question. You mentioned that the Books of Horror Facebook group, if I'm not mistaken, I think it is one of the biggest horror groups that I'm aware of in this business. Can you talk a little bit about how you managed to grow it to a population of 41,000 members? That is huge.
So yeah, for the beginning couple of years, it was a slow trickle, of members joining. But as the years went on, it started to pick up a lot of momentum, and then a lot of the authors were getting spotlighted in the group. A lot of indie authors, so I guess they would bring their fans over, and it just snowballed from there. Just grew and grew and grew. About 3 years ago, I think we were maybe at 10,000 members then. So it's been about a 10,000 member increase year over year. So I guess, I think Book Talk and Bookstagram stuff, people putting out reviews and things like that, have a lot to do with it. Question from Candace Nola. How have the book BOH anthologies been received by the industry? I'm not sure about how they're seen by peers, but I know the readers love, getting a sample of a lot of different authors in one book. The first book here, it was 49 stories in that, so 49 stories in that one. The second book was 50 stories in that one. I made a cheat sheet. The third volume had 74 stories in that one, and that was so big that it had to be split into 2 parts. So I did volume 3, part 1, and part 2. And then with Mike joining me for volume 4, that thing exploded. Another 2-parter, but it has 110 stories in there. So going back to Candace's question, I think through the industry, I think it's a good stepping stone for new authors, brand new authors, people that have never published anything before to actually get something in print to give them the drive that they need, kick in the butt to actually stop writing in secret and take the first step into the public with their storytelling. You got anything to add to that, Mike?
I think it's wonderful. It's a great opportunity for people that have always dreamt of being a writer. And then suddenly now they get to see themselves not only out there in a book, but with writers that they respect. And it's a fantastic opportunity.
Another question by Candace was, RJ, can you speak on how the BOH group have directly impacted the careers of many of the authors in the industry? A few examples of that would probably be, well, going back to the very beginning, one of the first ones I can remember would be Felix Blackwell and his book Stolen Tongues just absolutely blew up in the group. Everybody had to read it. Everybody had to weigh in with their thoughts and opinions about the book itself, whether you liked it or not. Everybody was talking about that book. The next big one that I can remember after that will be Daniel J. Volpe. And if you're in the horror community, especially the indie horror community, these names are going to sound familiar. Daniel Volpe, Aaron Beauregard, um, just Nick Roberts, John Durgan, all these people, blew up in books of horror. And, they're just, for that group, they're community fan favorites. A couple more questions. Can you talk about what it's like to edit anthologies? How do you keep everyone's story separated in your mind? Now that in itself is a little trick, because once you get into these, and Mike's here to testify about that. Once you start getting into an anthology like these, the main idea behind them is to, have everybody included, be as inclusive as possible. So the amount of submissions you get are almost the amount of submissions or stories that are published in them. With a select few, something didn't work out exactly how it should with the story, so I would have to reject it that way. Or I have 3 criteria points in the open call for the anthologies that if they go against those, then I will reject the story. But other than that, keeping them all straight in your head, yeah, that's a challenge, because me and Mike will talk back and forth about this story or that story. Hey, I really like this one, because how we split it up into 2 parts, he actually tackled one part and I tackled the other part at the same time, and then we switched them and we went through them that way. So, we were going, we were following each other's footsteps, and then I would get to a story and say, hey man, I really like this one. Mike would sometimes be like, that means nothing to me, tell me something about the story, and then I can remember it. Especially titles, if you say a title, like reading 110, or is it 123 submissions for volume 4, and we picked 109 of them to be printed. So once you go, and such a small space of time, I think we did the entire volume in around about 2 months from beginning to end, picking and rejecting the stories within them. So we would just have to, stop saying titles or saying this author and say, hey, do you remember the story about this, this, and this? Oh yeah, that was a really great one. So yeah, keeping 110 or 123 stories straight in your head by title or author alone is a bit of a challenge. But once a story is in your head and you can pick out little fine details about it, it became easier that way. And then you have those stories that stood out, like this was amazing. Like this person is a first time author and they're coming out the gate like this. They're going to go places. So, yes. Matt Wilderson asked, what upcoming anthologies are you planning, and does BOH have any open calls currently? Matt, you're killing me because we just went through volume 4, and you see, like, I'm trying to remember exactly when I opened up volume 4 submissions. Do you
March?
remember March?
Marchish? It
So
was
we
around STC, I think.
So we opened them up in March and we closed them in June, and we finalized everything by the first week of August. So 5 months in the building of one volume for Books of Horror. That is insane amount of time to sink into it, but it's worth it to see these stories in print, these authors get a spotlight, and hopefully encourage them to keep continuing doing what they're doing. Because with these books, there are a few authors that have told me that, it started their drive and passion for publishing and, getting into the writing community. So that at the end of the day, that makes it all worth it. I was originally supposed to have Ruth Ann join me today, Ruth Ann Jaggy, and she's one of those examples where she was in volume 1. I'm not sure if she had actually had anything published before that, but she and Natasha Sinclair both have gone on to do some amazing things and are continuing to do some amazing things. And, that's just one example of a dozen or more that the authors have got the bug, found their footing and just continued on with it. That's the whole point with these books. As to back, I'm getting wordy with these answers, but back to Matt Wilson, I actually have another anthology for Books of Horror coming out next month, it was brought to me and asked if I wanted to be the publisher, and I said absolutely. And what it is a women of indie horror anthology, strictly only women. And so that's what I'm currently working on as I'm putting the final details on volume 4 of Books of Horror. But that book is already shaping up to be amazing, and it's going to drop next month, whereas volume 4 drops in 2 weeks from yesterday. So open calls for Books of Horror. Between volume 3 and volume 4, I did take a year off just so I can catch up on my own personal writing. That's another thing. That's a con versus pro doing the Books of Horror anthologies because they are such a time sink. And, my personal writing suffers for it, but I would never change it. Next question. As to future open calls, you just have to watch in the group. The only way to be in a Books of Horror anthology is to be a member of the Books of Horror group, because I don't actually put open calls anywhere else on the internet. So it's for group members only. Candace asked, can you speak on keeping a group like this straight and organized project wise along with your own publishing company? I'll point towards Books of Horror. So basically, I've done it. This is the 4th time I've done it. So I have a pretty good handle on the systems of how to set myself up for success. Mike got to see a little bit behind the scenes this go around, and he actually helped me iron out a few kinks when we started the whole process for volume 4 by absolutely having a word limit maximum, that was a big help. So generally in the past I've been more relaxed with word counts when you submit a story. And a few slip through here and there, but I generally ask for, I think it was 2 to 6K for a word count. But we cut it down to 4,500 words maximum. So that made the story shorter, easier to get through with the amount of submissions that we had. And that was a lesson learned, taught to me by Mr. Innenbach there. So that's definitely one that I will keep. Keeping everything straight. I do. I don't like to do emails. Like, I hate sending emails. So a lot of the things that I will do to keep everyone informed all at once, so I'm not sending out 110 emails, would be to create a private Facebook group where I can talk to every single author in the book at one time. And then I will put up stuff in the group that I want everybody to have eyes on. Like, if I send out the contract, instead of sending 110 emails, I put the contract up in the group so everybody could grab it from there and then send it back to me. So stuff like that, little stuff, makes being the editor and overseer of a project like this a lot easier. Um, Next, another Candace question. You're an author and a poet plus. Oh, this one's to Mike, so I'll let you read it if you can see it.
What is that supposed to mean? Yes, sir. Plus, always helping with various projects. How do you keep your projects straight? Gigantic whiteboard. Absolutely, and it's got to be flip over, and I just have to look at it constantly. I put all the due dates of everything on there, and then RJ springs new projects, and just through an email, he's like, "Look what you're doing next," but on the board.
Yeah, Mike. I know Candace does that whiteboard too, but Mike told me I got to get a whiteboard for organization purposes. I don't really have the room for a whiteboard in my office, so I actually found a whiteboard type corkboard app on my phone, and I'm already in love with it. It's very good for organization, keeping things in order of when they need to be done, things like that. So, yes, the whiteboard. I think Candace spoke about it um, on her Book Buzz Expo interview yesterday.
I have two quick questions for you guys. Uh, I guess they're sort of related. One of them is, do you find that with such a large group that the anthologies have something of a built-in audience already? And also, I think if you were, let's say, we have Joe Schmo, the brand new writer, who's joining Books of Horror. Um, what is best practices for them to be able to become a part of the community and not to make it sound mercenary, but to be able to blow up like somebody like Dan Volpe or Aaron Beauregard within that group?
Okay, I'll tackle that second question first. Um, when you ask to join the group, we have a certain number of questions already in place, and one of those is, if you're an author, please know that you cannot come in and start self-promoting right away. You actually need to be a member of the community. And I think any author that has a true blue following will tell you that actually, you know, interacting with your fans, I don't want to say fans, but the people that support you, your readers, that is the best course of action, because if you're just spamming every day, nothing but dropping a link to your book, it just becomes invisible to people. So in Books of Horror, we have the rule set up to where you need to be discussing horror books, what you like, what you didn't like, and maybe once every week or so, drop a self promotion link. That's the big thing, like we're trying to help the authors from themselves so they don't just become invisible to people or groan worthy when you see just constant self promotion of themselves and no one else, not discussing the horror fiction that they like. Um, what was the first question? Since I answered the second question.
The first question, and also we have a question about the name of that app. Folks would like to know the name of that app. But my first question was: do you find that because you have such a large group of people, do you have kind of a built-in audience for the anthologies? Do you find that most of like a lot of the sales come from the group?
Yes, definitely. I don't know if they're all from the group because I see the analytics behind the books, and I would say that absolutely the books of horror anthologies have a big audience in the group itself, but I think it's spread out, however Amazon's algorithm works. It's just a mystery to Amazon itself, I think. But yeah, with the anthologies, there's definitely a built-in audience. But then when you have so many people in one book, you have so many people out there saying, "Hey, I got a story in this," so everybody should pick it up, check out my story, and then you get so many other stories to enjoy along with mine. So it's kind of a daisy chain of that type. So the name of the app is called Noteboard, and it would look like that. So I'm probably gonna give away secret, or so when it's Noteboard, but it would um it would look like that, and that's all my projects I have in the work. I'm just trying not to stay static so nobody can really read it, and I'll pause it and read them. But it's essentially like the whiteboard, but it's little post-its, the one that I use, and it's definitely helped me with organization. Like it's so, Mike talks about wiping one away from the whiteboard. It's so satisfying to remove one of those little post-its off of that app. What did I think Matt asked the name of the app. Everybody wants to know the name of the app, so
So it's Noteboard, you said, right?
Noteboard. Two words, Noteboard. And I'm on Android, so I don't know if it's available on Apple iOS. But
They probably have one. It's the same thing. It just costs more and doesn't work as well.
Touche. All right. Well, I want to thank you both for being on the BuzzBook Expo this year. It was great to have you both. I think that what the Books of Horror group is doing is fantastic and really amazing. I mean, it's got an incredibly strong presence, and kudos to you guys for that. That's really cool.
Thank you.
So thanks again for being part of the expo, and it was good to see you.
Good to see you. Look forward.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's right. Boom.
Look forward to nope. I'm so sorry.
Look forward to seeing you in April.
Look forward to seeing you too.
She wanted to talk to me about that, not you.
I'm so sorry.
But I'll see you in April too. RJ will probably be there.
Okay. Well, I will see you both then. Okay, folks, we are going to have some quick ads, and then we hope you'll join us for some final remarks and the closing of the expo. So hang in there. Hello, everybody. welcome to the closing remarks, the end of BuzzBook Expo. We appreciate that you stuck around because we have a couple of announcements. First, I would like to thank all of the presenters. Everyone did such a great job, and it is genuinely heartening to see so many publishers who are so excited about what they're doing and that really care about the authors and are interested in making, adding to the canon of literature that is our genre. I'd also like to thank everybody who attended, who watched the expo, especially the folks in the chat. You kept up some lively chit chat in the chat log there, and we really appreciate it. You asked some great questions, and we really, 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 I mean, it actually, I don't know that I can convey what a relief it is to see people excited about books, pre-ordering books, ordering books, chatting things up, talking about the things that they like, giving us feedback. It really means a lot. And of course, a special thanks to Matt Wilderson and Summer Cannon for all of the hard work that they put into doing this expo. As I've said, I have the easy job. I just come on and chat with everybody. But they really put in a lot of time and effort into organizing this thing and making sure that everybody has the links they need and everybody's technical stuff is working. And I really appreciate the both of them. Before we get into too much of the announcing, I want to give Matt a chance to express some thoughts and open things up to any questions you guys might have. So take it away, Matt.
Like you said, I want to thank everybody who's been very active in the chats. All our presenters did fantastic jobs this year. There were some small hiccups there. For some reason, my computer wanted to keep playing Paul's ad.
Well, Paul is awesome.
Paul is very awesome. But I know Mary gives me some credit, but I've said this to Summer a couple of times. If she did not have the organization skills that she has, this would be just a giant mess. And I will put both of us on blast for that. You and I both know we are not that great at organization. Maybe with that notebook app, we can that can help us.
Noteboard. Yes,
the noteboard. Yeah,
yes.
See, I already messed it up. But yeah, I love doing this every year. I love seeing what each and every presenter brings to the table.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been listening to some of the stuff you guys have been saying in the chat. There were some mentions of certain types of panels and different types of learning things that you as watchers would like to see. And we're considering that stuff. We've been talking about having a panel again next year for self-publishing, because that went over swimmingly. I think even better than we all anticipated that was going to go over. And we're thinking of ideas of having panels that maybe run a little bit longer than the 20-minute slot.
Right.
We're trying to think of things like for in between times with ads and stuff. We saw a couple people mention that they were very thankful that they could get a bathroom break in.
Yes.
Trust us, we are too.
We are too.
I'm drinking coffee like a machine back here, like it's my day job, and I need those bathroom breaks. But yeah, it's the core of this whole thing is just to help connect readers with their favorite authors and with the presses that they get their books from, and allowing the presses to also give a little bit of a peek behind the scenes of what they do, and it warmed my heart today to see so many people in the chat being like, I just pre-ordered this, or this is now added to my TBR list. My bank account is going to hate me.
Right.
And it was great to see that, because that at the end of the day is the whole mission of what Buzz Books is all about.
Exactly.
So.
We have a lot of authors in the audience as well, and that's good to see too, because one of the things that we've noticed about just in having been around, some of us longer than others, is that you really have to take charge of your own career, and I think that any ways that we can help each other do that, any ways that we can help each other connect to the people who are genuinely interested and care about what we're writing, I think it's great. So it's always, I think, interesting and informative to me to be able to see the new ways that publishers are thinking of marketing the books, and the new ideas they have for packaging, and all of the interesting things that people are doing that 20 years ago would have been either impossible or just unthought of, unheard of, it's good to see that. It really is.
Yeah,
it really is. Along those lines, and I hope that my two cohorts here are cool with me bringing this up into the conversation here. Buzz Books in general is something that we're working on building beyond the expo. And I know we've mentioned it a little bit last year, but we are looking to expand it into something where we are actively connecting mailing lists of readers and reviewers and librarians and booksellers, etc., with writers, and also attending to certain things that writers need that they can't easily get on their own. And to that end, one of the things that we will be doing probably late next year, we don't have an exact date, so we can't give you an exact date yet, is that people may be familiar with the Borderlands boot camp, which Brian Keene and I inherited. After giving it a significant amount of thought and consideration to how to make it work in the way that we would like it to, Buzz Books is going to be, I was going to say consuming it, but maybe that's it's going to be under the Buzz Book umbrella starting next year, and the formatting is going to change. It is going to be somewhere between like a little con and a little trade show, maybe, where we do have panels about marketing, and we have presenters coming to talk about things like estate planning and how to sell foreign rights, and how to really market your work in different ways. And there will be some of the craft, which has been the focus in the past, but mostly it's going to be tools for writers to help build their career and reach a wider audience, since that is the purpose, that is the sort of mission statement of Buzz Books in general. Again, one of the ways that you can help stay in the loop, we intend to use the YouTube channel more. We intend to be putting up more content, including a lot of the ads, provided that the publishers don't have any objection to that. We intend to be doing, maybe little short videos, little presentations, little mini things that we can add to the YouTube channel. We've got a lot of things in the works. And in some cases, it's just a matter of executing them in the most timely and efficient fashion, which is why, thank God, we have summer. So those are pretty much our two big announcements, is that we intend to use the YouTube channel more. So stay tuned for that. If you are, if you're watching this, you're on the YouTube channel now. If you subscribe, I believe you get updates of when content is posted. So we'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe. We also would appreciate it if you'd share the links, so that, because one of the things that we find is a valuable variable, I think was what I was trying to say, and it wasn't going to come out right, about this expo, is that many people watch it afterward. We get, I think, I couldn't give you the exact numbers, but we get a significant number of views after the expo is done, when people can watch it at their leisure, and they can, go to the parts that they want to see. And it would help, again, in being able to, put forth those numbers in the future to different publishers and, different people, and saying, hey, this is how many views that we get. So that the more interactive connections we can make between writers and readers, reviewers, et cetera, that we would like to do that. So we appreciate everybody. I'm seeing a couple of comments. People are subscribing. Thank you.
Yes.
It really means a lot. if you have any kind of feedback you want to send to us, you can send it to us at buzzbookexpo@gmail.com. We are, as Matt mentioned, we're thinking about different things that we can do, say in between the ads during those 10-minute breaks.
Yep.
We're thinking of ways to add more to the ads, or string together, more ads in the future. Like I said, we got plans. We got big plans. And if you have any questions, as I said, we have another 10 minutes that allotted to answer any kind of questions that you folks have. So please, by all means, ask, and we can answer those questions for you. Further, again, if you want to participate, you want to be involved in some way in BuzzBooks in general or the BuzzBook Expo, we can always use volunteers for things, because as I said, we are starting to plan bigger and more complicated things, right. And we do need volunteers that we can count on in order to make some of these things happen, and in order to keep making certain things happen, in order to maintain certain things that we really need. So we're definitely open to volunteers who want to help out. And if you want to be a presenter, if you are a publisher or you're thinking of starting a publishing company, and you want to become involved, definitely contact us and let us know. Millie asks, where do I get these wonderful necklaces? Well, thank you. This one, I honest to God don't know. I think this came from Michael's, and I just put it on a string. It's like a little lacy thing, but it happens to match my shirt, and I was like, oh yay! The one that I was wearing yesterday, the leaf one, which I absolutely love. That one I'm pretty sure I got off of Amazon. I get most of my stuff off of Amazon, because seeing the Amazon boxes arrive at the house fills me with a peace and joy.
It's like a mini Christmas.
It is. It's like a mini Christmas every day. Chris asks, how do you three feel? I'm not going to lie. I'm hungry and I'm tired.
Exhausted.
Yes, I am hungry and I am tired.
When Mary came in today, I said, I was like, I got a little story for you. So yesterday, after we were done, because the first day is always more stressful. At least in my mind.
Oh, well, yes, because we always worry that something's going to go wrong. There's going to be some kind of
we worry about a million things going wrong. And I was like, when we were done, I was so tired. All the energy I had left was I made a hot ham and cheese sandwich and then passed out for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm going to pass out today, because it feels good, but.
Well, it feels good that everything went very well. It really does. I mean, it feels good to know that. To know that people appreciate what we're doing and that they're excited about it, like Matt said, that to see that people are ordering books and pre-ordering books, because to us, that's kind of the purpose. We want people to engage. We want people to be excited about the upcoming books. And, it's funny, because we're always kind of hesitant to talk about our own stuff, even when we have the platform to do it. But all three of us are working on things. All three of us have books coming out, and we know how hard it is. And sometimes I think it's almost harder to promote like your 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th book than it is to promote your first one. In some ways, it's easier. Don't get me wrong. In some ways, it's easier because you have people who have read you before, and they may be looking for a new book of yours to come out. But it's.
I think
it could be a challenge.
I think it gets harder sometimes, even as you go along, because I basically have to self-promote everything I've put out.
Mm-hmm.
But I think as you get going, you get more familiar, and then you get comfortable, and then you forget all those things that you made sure in the beginning that you were hitting, because you were worried about it not working.
Exactly. There's some things that you tend to forget to do, believe it or not. Yep. That when your first book is coming out, like you're excited to talk about it. You're excited to send review copies. You're excited to go out and promote it. And then by the 11th book, you're like, am I just, can I still do it? It's fun. It's funny. It's funny how that works. And one of the things that we would like to do with BuzzBooks is kind of renew that remind you why you love to write in the first place, and remind you why you love to read in the first place.
Exactly.
Because all of us, all the folks who are writers are also readers too, and I think that is probably the hardest part of doing this for a long time, is that you have to be reminded maybe a little more often why you did this in the first place. And any event, like this, like BuzzBooks, no matter how tired or hungry or whatever I am, BuzzBooks always does remind me of why I wanted to do this in the first place. And that, I think, is invaluable.
I believe that's why you, Summer, and I have such a kinship for doing this. Is we all feel the exact same way.
Exactly.
And it comes at a really good time of the year too, because when you hit around the September, October time, you do think about spooky season a lot more. But you're also like, okay, the year's coming to an end.
And what have I done this year?
What have I done? Maybe you start slowing down a little bit. And for me at least, this event kind of helps stoke the flame a little bit more.
Exactly. Exactly. And as Paul mentioned in his presentation, where publishers have to take inventory of what they've done and what their structure is, what their schedules are, what direction they're taking their publishing company in. Writers have to do that too. You have to reevaluate the appearances that you're at and your writing schedule. Is it effective? Are you getting enough writing done? And you evaluate your hustle, as Brian Keene calls it. Are you going after the opportunities that present themselves? Or are you letting them slip by because you think, oh, I'm not right for that, or oh, I wouldn't, you do have to kind of take inventory of your own career. And sometimes I think it's nice to be able to go into that with such a positive and enthusiastic thing, because you've heard of all these great publishers and what they're doing and how they're promoting their authors, and it's exciting again. It reminds you why you like to read.
Yeah. And I think one takeaway from this event, especially this one, is for anybody who's out there who's just starting to write. One theme I've kind of picked up on is that the only contract you don't get to sign is the one you don't go after.
Yeah, exactly.
I know a lot of people that start out, they get scared. They feel like, as you mentioned, like this isn't for me, or I'm not good enough yet. And you're your own worst critic.
Yes.
And you'll never know if you can get that contract unless you try. So it's a golden rule. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there.
Absolutely. And this is a networking business. This is an entertainment field, and entertainment fields run very strongly on networking. And I think, expos like this, conventions, especially something like AuthorCon, they're good opportunities to put names with faces, and to put your, to just have that little bit of human connection with publishers and agents and other writers, because a lot of stuff is it's recommended by other authors. A lot of some of the harder to get work, and people say, well, how did you get that gig? Well, a lot of it is who you know, and but that's not, it shouldn't be a barrier. Okay, who you know, it shouldn't be a barrier, or who you don't know, I guess, shouldn't be a barrier, because eventually, the more you write, the more you get out there, the more you talk to people, the more you sort of establish, like, here's my thing, here's what I'm good at, here's what I enjoy doing. The more people will say, oh, hey, we need that particular thing done. How about you? And I do think expos like this are good for that. Every year we've done this. Matt and Summer and I have compiled lists of publishers that we keep an eye on, that we are so impressed by what they've said about their publishing methods, and how they treat their authors, and who they're publishing, and what they plan to do in the future. That we keep them on a list of publishers that we'd maybe like to try to work with someday, and that we would recommend to other authors who may be looking for a publisher to work with. So it works, I think, all around. And I do think that a lot of the publishers that we've talked to today tend to look at, you know, what authors are chatting with them and commenting with them and
Right.
you know, throwing stuff out there. I mean, and I'll tell you the truth. Even authors I don't know, but you know, that I've seen chatting, you know, or people that are interact. You know, I've seen you. I see you. You're seen. I've seen you commenting, and I appreciate it, and I notice, and I remember, and that's, you know, one of the nice things about this expo too.
And I'm seeing some of the comments that are coming in right now. Like, I feel seen, and I'm in my feelings over here and stuff like that. A little secret behind the thing is even these publishers that have their own companies and are putting this stuff out, they feel the exact same way about the work they're putting out that you're feeling that you're submitting to them.
Exactly.
Everyone is in their own feelings about everything that's getting put out. But you know what that means? That means you care.
Yes.
And that you're putting your all into what you're producing.
Yes. And that, I
and
mean,
if you wouldn't have
that's
these
important.
feelings, I would say quit, because then you're at a point where you don't have heart anymore. So
yes.
I apologize. That's my dog. I don't know if everybody's hearing that. I guess she agrees with me, possibly.
Well, we've pretty much hit our time. Do you have anything else you want to add before we go?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, well then I want to thank everyone who's participated this weekend. It really, really means a lot to us. Genuinely and truly, from the bottom of my heart, really means a lot to us that you folks hung in here with us for 2 days, that you participated, that you chatted, that you asked questions. It really does mean a lot. So thank you. And
Yes, thank you.
We hope to see you again next year.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.